It's Mental Health Sunday. How y'all doing out there? Come on, like and share the video. Hey, hey, hey. I love Mental Health Sunday, man. Yeah. What's happening, good people? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Mental Health Sunday, where we're having a heart-to-heart mental health awareness talk from a biblical perspective. Listen, like and share this video. It is time for us in the body of Christ to start addressing the mental health issues, the taboo that's in the room. It's something that people don't like to talk about in church, but it's necessary because it is a part of who we are as individuals. Just like you have health conditions when it comes to your heart or your kidneys and things of that nature, you have mental health conditions as well. And it is necessary in the body of Christ to discuss these things and let it not be the elephant in the room. Amen. So like and share every single last Sunday of the month, we do a mental health heart-to-heart talk. And today we're going to be discussing communicating your needs effectively. Communicating your needs effectively. Listen, Proverbs 4:7 says, the beginning of wisdom is get skillful, and godly wisdom is preeminent. And with all you're acquiring, it says get understanding. Actively seek spiritual discernments, mature comprehension, and logical interpretation. And just like we need that from the spiritual sense, we also need to get an understanding in the natural sense when it comes to communication. The very purpose of communication in and of itself is to obtain an understanding. Not that we have to agree, but that we can seek to understand one another so that we can coexist in harmony. And that's the problem a lot of times with communication is people trying to make you believe what they believe and make you think what they think. But that's not what communication should be for. It should be utilized so that I can express to you where I'm coming from. And then I'm going to listen, not with the intent to respond, but listen with the intent to understanding your perspective so that I can know how to coexist in harmony with you. So I want to talk about this today because this is a very important topic. As a matter of fact, one of the main reasons that couples and families alike seek therapy is due to their inability to communicate effectively. Everyone is talking, but no one is listening. And in most cases, the person talking doesn't even realize that he or she is communicating in a way that prevents the other person from hearing or understanding what it is that they're trying to communicate. And it's crazy because people don't realize that. I'm not hearing you if you're yelling at me. I'm not hearing you if you're talking to me in a sarcastic tone. I'm not hearing you if just because you got a smile on your face, but we all know the intent behind your heart is something totally different. I'm not hearing you. And we have to take accountability for how we're communicating if we want people to effectively hear what it is that we need. So communication skills they're essential, regardless of if you're in an intimate relationship or it's a platonic relationship. It really doesn't matter. You need to learn how to communicate to get a job, to keep a job. Like I said, for platonic friendships, in every aspect of your life. When you get in front of the doctor, you need to know how to adequately communicate your needs so that you can describe your symptoms to make sure he is or she is diagnosing you appropriately. When you're ordering food at a restaurant, you got to learn how to communicate. I'm amazed at how people order food and they get mad at the waitress when they come back. But boo, you did not adequately communicate what it was that you need. So the point I'm making is you got to learn how to talk to people so that you can get what you need in this life. Now, most people, if you're like me, you learn how to communicate from watching your parents and other people or adults that you've come in contact with. It is during childhood that you learn from observing how to communicate when you're feeling the most intense emotions. If you're a person that becomes angry and you start yelling, this behavior is something that you observed and picked up during your early developmental years. It's when you become angry, you retreat, you shut down. Well, if that's your personality, rather, if you're the type of person when you get angry, you retreat or shut down. And you want to be by yourself, that is likewise due to what you observed in your early years of development. And so repetitive patterns that continue from generation to generation, church folk, they call it generational curses, but it's repetitive patterns. What we watch and listen, then we repeat what we see and what we saw, what we heard. Then we get into relationships. What we do, we repeat what we saw and what we heard. It's only a small percentage of individuals that grow up in a dysfunctional environment and then do opposite of what they saw. Very, very, very small percentage. And so I want you to think about your childhood for just a moment. Were you taught that it was okay to communicate your feelings? In other words, was someone there to listen and encourage you to say what you're feeling? Or did the opposite occur? Did every time you try to communicate something, the adults around you say, not right now, I'm busy. Maybe later, go sit down. Go in your room right now. Go, 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 go. Mama busy, daddy busy. Ain't nobody got time for that right now. Go, go, go. Children need to be seen, not heard. Stay in a child's place. Think about the messages that were communicated to you when you were younger. Now I want you to reflect inward. Think about the message that you communicate to others today based on those messages. You see, we get into these relationships, whether they're platonic or romantic, and regardless of the environment that you grew up in, the messages or the meaning that you gave the events in your childhood, they laid a foundation for the way you communicate today. I want you to think about the way you communicate for a moment. Do you feel secure to say whatever you're feeling or thinking without fear of being rejected? Or are you a person that kind of fears abandonment or you're fearful of loss? So you don't quite communicate your needs. You just kind of try to please everyone and just go with the flow. So you're staying out the way. Are you a person that's kind of fearful of vulnerability? So you feel like, communicating your feelings is for the weak or the sensitive. So, you don't talk at all. You just avoid your feelings. You stuff your feelings and you don't communicate them. This is important for you to be aware of how you communicate. I mean, seriously, are you friendly? I mean, I hear all people all the time. I don't have a lot of friends. I really want to engage with other people, but are you friendly when you communicate? Or are you antisocial? Are you fearful, kind of shy or standoffish? See, one of the most unrealistic things that people think is that people that they love or care about are just supposed to automatically know what they need or what they think, and without them effectively communicating their needs to that person. Oh, we've been together for 4 years. I hear people saying, well, she ought to know what I need. He ought to know what I like. But how? How? When you don't even really know what you want and what you need, how can someone else give it to you, or how are they supposed to know when you haven't even figured it out? Or maybe you have, and assuming that your needs are realistic, do you know how to effectively communicate those needs so that you can get some results? Because it matters not if you know what you need, if you don't know how to communicate to the people you love what it is that you need so that they can give you what it is that you desire. So many people are in relationships and infidelity happens because of the fact that their needs are not being met. But the reality is that they have not communicated those needs in such a way that gives that person or sets that person up to succeed, to give them what it is that they're missing. So the first step with adequately communicating your needs is being curious about how you communicate and why. And then the second step is to identify how the person you're communicating with communicates, because most of the time it's not the same, which is why there's so much conflict in understanding one another, because I communicate one way, but when I'm communicating to you, you may be hearing something different because you communicate differently from me. Ask yourself, Are you quick to get defensive when someone starts asking you something? Are you super critical when you're expressing your needs to others? Are you one of those individuals that are afraid to ask for what you need, as if it might be too much to ask for, as if you don't deserve it? Start being curious about you. Get a good understanding of you before you start identifying all the flaws in the person you're having trouble communicating with. Because the reality is sometimes it's not the other person, it's us. So I want to teach you 4 communication styles real quickly. And I want you to identify yourself in these styles. Now, some of you may be a mixture of these styles, and that's okay. But once you understand your style, then you can effectively communicate what you need based on your style of communication. And then after you've mastered that, then the next step is to seek to understand by learning how the person you're connected to communicates. Again, the goal of communication is understanding. And that cannot happen if you don't know how to speak so you can be understood. Trying to communicate with somebody in a way that conflicts rather with their communication style can lead to them shutting down or misunderstanding what you're trying to express to them. And that's how confusion and conflict comes in. Or this is back and forth. They just don't get me. Well, it's not that they don't get you. They don't understand you because the communication style is not effective so that that person can hear your need and then compromise on how to meet it. All right. So let's talk about number 1, the analytical communicator. The analytical communicator. This is someone who likes hard data and specific language. They just want facts. Give me the facts. Give me the facts. They have less patience when using emotion while communicating. Now, the benefit of the analytical communicator is the ability to look at problems logically without involving too much emotion. So they're great with business endeavors. The downside, though, to this communication style is some people might see an analytical communicator as someone that's cold and emotionally distant, disconnected. So if the person you're trying to communicate with is an analytical communicator, they may listen to you expressing your emotions over an issue, and they look to find the solution without validating you, without making you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Instead of just listening and giving you the empathy that you want, they're busy trying to fix you. They're trying to fix you. Okay. Number 2, the intuitive communicator. Now, the intuitive communicator, they like to look at the big picture. They want to skip over the details and cut straight to the chase. And the benefit of the intuitive communicator is that they're visionaries and they're good at challenging the conventional ways of doing things. Intuitive communicators, they tend to lack the patience, though, in situations that require them to get into the minute details. So this type of communicator, if you're trying to talk to the person and you're being too wordy, you're going to lose them. They're going to start daydreaming. You're going to be wondering, are you paying attention to me? And they're waiting for you to get to the point. This type of communication can be associated with the dreamer. All right, let's keep moving. Number 3, the functional communicator. Now, the functional communicator, they like to process. They want to get it out. They want to talk about it. They like the finer details. They like to plan things and they like to think things all the way through. For instance, they're amazing at paying attention to the details so nothing gets missed. They're great for planning events. Now, the downside is that the functional communicator may bore you, or they may bore the person they're talking to because they give you so many details that it'll cause you to lose your attention. All right. And then lastly, the personal communicator. The personal communicator is someone who values emotional language and connection. So when they're communicating with someone, they tend to feel out what the person is really saying behind the words through body language. These type of communicators are usually referred to as good listeners because they can help resolve conflict and smooth things out. But on the flip side, Someone who speaks in another communication style can see the personal communicator as too touchy-feely. See, so you might be a combination of these things, or you may be definitive one thing or the other. But the thing to understand is there is no right or wrong communication style. In reference to what I just explained to you and taught you, there's no right or wrong communication style. It's just the way the person communicates. So we have to seek understanding on how you communicate first, and then seek understanding of how others what their communication style is. And once you identify what that communication style is, you got to learn how to compromise. You got to learn how to compromise. If you're a person that likes to go on and on and on and on, and that's your communication style, be cognizant of the fact if you're dealing with someone who has a short attention span, they just want to know what the details are. Look, just give me the details. I don't need to know all of that. Be respectful and learn how to compromise so that each person their need is being met. See, once you understand why the person is the way they are, because their communication style is different from yours, now you have to seek to compromise. Compromise. It does not have to always be your way. Just because you're the type of person that don't want to hear details, don't mean you always got to be cutting people off. Like, just come on, get to the detail. Get to the end of it. What's the point? Sometimes you got to exercise a little patience and learn how to work with that individual. Make it a compromise. Now, after you've identified the communication style, you need to think about what your need is. Okay, I know how to communicate. Now, what is my need? Is it realistic? Is what I'm requesting of the other individual realistic? Is it reasonable? Not reasonable based upon the fact of not just, I should say, reasonable from the standpoint of what am I asking? Am I asking a person to give me the world? Like literally, I want you to fly me all around the world, and you know the person is working at a job that's minimum wage. Is it reasonable what you're requesting of that individual? And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you working, baby, that's great. Ain't nobody judging about how much you make. You got a job. That's a beautiful thing. What I'm trying to explain is that our needs that we are putting on other people, it has to be realistic for where that person is. You cannot expect a person to do something that's beyond their ability to do and then get mad at them because your needs are not being met. You got to be realistic. So we first got to get the communication style, right? Then we got to check out our needs and make sure they're reasonable. And then if the need is reasonable, you got to be able to communicate it effectively. I say this all the time, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's relevant. You cannot say to a person, I'm affectionate. I need you to give me more affection. And then the person holds your hand and you're saying, I keep telling you to give me more affection. Man, golly, why you don't never touch me enough? And they're like, but I hold your hand. I don't understand what you need. You telling me you need affection, and I'm thinking this is what you need. So this is what I'm giving you, and you're still not satisfied. Well, you're not satisfied because you have not effectively communicated what you need. Saying that you need affection is not specific enough for the person to be able to give you what it is that you need. You got to tell them, I want you to hug me. I want you to kiss me on my neck. I want you to pull me close to you. I want to cuddle. These are specific directives that are giving a person an opportunity to meet your needs because you're specifically telling them. But again, the assumption that they should know is the reason why your needs haven't been met. You're assuming instead of communicating what it is. And if you have communicated it before and the person is still not giving it to you, maybe you need to communicate it in a different way now that you understand how they receive communication, how they hear. So we got the communication styles. We got to make sure it's reasonable. And then we got to communicate it in a way that a person can carry it out, right? We got to be effective in how we communicate it. And then lastly, when we're communicating with a person, after we've given them the details, we know what type of style of communication they are. We know that what we're wanting from them is reasonable, right? And we've been specific in how they can do it. The last thing we need to be conscious of in order to communicate effectively is that just because a person understands what it is that you're requesting of them, does not mean that they're always willing to give you what it is that you need. And it's a reality. And that's when you have to make the decision. Are you going to compromise? Or are you going to hold a standard or a boundary? If we've been friends for 50 years, just a platonic friendship, and you've been walking on me for 50 years, it's not your fault. It's mine, because I didn't hold the boundary. After I've expressed to you the need to be respected and talked to in a way that you would want to be talked to, if I've expressed that and you're just not willing to do the reasonable thing, then I've got to hold a boundary and make a decision on, do I want to keep putting myself in this position that after I've communicated my need, that this person continues to do whatever it is they desire without any concern of my need? Then I need to make a decision. Is this something that I want to continually participate in? Now, if it's a family member, you can lovingly and respectfully keep distance. I can love you, but I do not have to allow myself to keep being put in a position where you keep on walking all over me and talking to me like I'm crazy. I don't have to keep putting myself in that position. The Bible says, as much as possibly live peaceably with all men. Must it possible means that in some situations it's not possible. Some people don't want to be in harmony. Some people like to keep confusion and drama up. And if you're the type of person that you don't want to be involved with that type of thing, then it's okay to separate yourself and put yourself some distance in between that individual. It's okay to hold boundaries. It's okay to hold boundaries. So I hope you got something out of what this talk today on communicating your needs effectively, because it is a subject that continues to be something that causes a lot of friction in the church, in homes, on your job, everywhere you go. If you do not know how to communicate effectively, you will always have issues with people. You got to get to that place where you have matured in God to the point where you say, you know what? I'm going to agree to disagree. I don't have to get my way. I'm going to listen and be respectful of your side. And after I try to present mine, if you're still being disrespectful, I'm going to just agree to disagree. And I'm going to back myself up out the situation. Communication is so important. So important. If you cannot hear what the person is saying, you will never be able to understand. And if they cannot hear what you're saying, they will never be able to understand. You have to keep that in mind when you're communicating. Is the way I'm saying this, if somebody was saying it to me, would I be able to hear what they're saying and then be able to understand? If I was talking to them the way they're talking to me, would I be able to hear? Let that be your barometer. Because if you don't like hot sauce going down, hot fire, and you want honey, then when you talk, how about you give honey? And maybe you won't receive so much hot sauce. It's my prayer that you gain something, some information, something that will help you in your journey from this heart to heart on communicating your needs more effectively, so that you can then begin to get yourself into healthy environments where you're able to say, this is what I have a need of, be able to communicate that, and then have more benefiting relationships, because it all starts with communication. I hope that you enjoyed this heart to heart and you got something out of this that can help you on your journey. Until next week, I pray that you have a blessed week full of love and unconditional love. That's my prayer for each and every one of you. Until next week, be blessed.